...2021 LUVIAS Airity. Does this thing look like jewelry or not? Man, it looks pretty good. I think one thing I haven't mentioned before, probably even noticed, the spools with the extra port sound a little bit different even when they have exactly the same clicker inside, just because the sound waves propagate a little bit different. Not only they can escape easier, but the resonance inside the spool is a little bit different. So sometimes you can have exactly the same clicker sound a little bit different with different spools. This is the exact reel I'm going to review today, folks. Feel free to pause the video to read all of the specs. But before we dig into this reel, we have to go on a little tangent again that will just help you understand what this reel really is. If you think about the Legalis, Exceller, and Fuego reels, they're really one and the same reel, just with slightly different accessories. The Exceller is a Legalis with a screw-in handle, and the Fuego is a Legalis with a screw-in handle and a few seals. So it would have made sense for Daiwa to give these three reels one and the same name, with just a couple of extra letters behind the name, just to designate the different models of the same reel. For example, the Fuego should really be called Legalis SW for saltwater, because really this is what the Fuego is. It's a saltwater Legalis. It's the same reel, but it has some seals so it can handle salt water. And also the Exceller should be Legalis with I don't know what two letters to designate the screw-in handle. But Daiwa chose to give these three models of the same reel completely different names and completely different paint jobs, just to create for the customers the illusion of choice. Like you have completely different products when really you are buying the same product. And if people were aware that the difference is really only in accessories, they could in some cases go for the base model instead of the model with the bells and whistles. Why do I need, for example, a Fuego if I fish in Chicago? Why do I need mag seal or any other seal for that matter? So when I heard that Daiwa is releasing this new LUVIAS Airity reel, I immediately thought that Daiwa got the previous LUVIAS. They added a couple of bearings, they sprayed a new paint, and they called it a new model. But I thought, oh, at least they're calling both reels LUVIAS to, designate that they're built on the same platform and just to designate the heritage. Not like, with the Legalis, call every model with a different name. So I thought, oh, that's at least appropriate. And if you saw my review of the LUVIAS, you remember there were a couple of plastic bushings here. So I thought, oh, these are precisely the two bushings that they replaced. They put bearings In the Arity, where the plastic bushings were, they put a new paint and that was it. But let's zoom out a little bit and look at the two reels again. Now, remember what I said about the paint jobs. Usually they sprayed the different models with different paints just to, create the illusion of two different products. But don't you find that these two reels have a very similar paint job? I know the Arity looks better, I understand. It does look more metallic and shinier and just more expensive. It does look like a jewelry. But come on, if I put them a little bit farther and I don't have so much light onto these reels right now so they don't shine like that, I mean, just look at the color schemes. Try to zoom out even more in your mind and look at the color schemes. They do look very, very similar, man. The same kind of olive, or I don't know what kind of color of the frame, the same kind of gold accents, but not Shimano gold, but the beautiful Daiwa gold. It looks like Daiwa actually in this case intentionally tried pretty hard to preserve the same look of these reels. So don't you find it interesting that in this case Daiwa is releasing a new LUVIAS model but doesn't give it a new name. It still names it LUVIAS, only LUVIAS Airity, and also instead of spraying new paint, it uses exactly the same color scheme. Very, very interesting, don't you think? The truth is, my good friends, that the LUVIAS Airity has nothing to do with the 2020 LUVIAS. The two reels are not related, they're not built on the same platform, and Daiwa is intentionally creating the misconception that they are some kind of relatives and intentionally giving the two reels the same name and intentionally painting them with the same color scheme. What the new LUVIAS Airity really is. Can somebody give me some drum roll? It is this guy here. Exist. Is there LT somewhere here? Exist LT. That's right. This new LUVIAS Airity reel is Daiwa's freshwater flagship that now you can purchase for 30, maybe even 40% discount depending on where you shop. The only difference between these two Exist LT models is that here in the Arity, again, Daiwa left a plastic bushing under the spool. I think Daiwa is leaving these plastic bushings just to piss people off, because I don't think this is a cost saving in a $500 reel. But this bushing takes like 2 minutes to replace, and this is actually one place where you don't have to buy expensive Japanese bearing. You can buy from AliExpress, eBay, anywhere. It doesn't matter what bearing you put under the spool. It doesn't matter if you leave the stock polyurethane bushing either. But for what it's worth, we do have a plastic bushing here under the spool, and we have a bearing in the Exist LT. The Exist LT still has the anti-reverse here, while the LUVIAS Airity doesn't have it. And I want to bet you $20 that the next model of the Exist LT will not have anti-reverse anymore either. Also, the Exist LT does have two tiny washers here on the main gear, and it also has two extra O-rings on the main gear. Definitely don't care for the O-rings, not when I fish in Chicago. All that O-rings do is create extra resistance. And let me mention right now, because I'll forget later, the Exist LT does have a little extra resistance compared to the LUVIAS Airity, and the Airity already has more resistance than the average Shimano $250 Vanfort version. But yeah, that's the difference. Oh, also, every single bearing in the Exist LT is corrosion resistant, while, I don't know, only 8 or 9 of these here in the Arity are corrosion resistant. I think there is a couple of them, maybe in the main gear, that are on the main gear that are not corrosion resistant. But remember, corrosion resistant bearing again gives you extra weight and extra resistance. So for me, that too is not an improvement, it's not an advantage that the Exist LT has the corrosion resistant bearing and this here has the, let's say, low inertia bearing. But what about the aesthetics? Does anybody think that the Exist LT looks better than the Arity? Come on, man, the handle gets in the way. The Arity looks to me just like the more expensive reel. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. So all in all, if the two reels cost the same and I had to pay whatever the $500 and pick either one of these two reels, I would still get the Arity, because I don't care for this plastic bushing. I can replace it if I want, but I don't even want to. It has a little less resistance and it looks better. But they don't even cost the same. You're getting huge 30 or 40% discount. Let me bring back the actual LUVIAS for a few quick comments, because I know you guys are, dying to hear comparisons. I can tell you my honest word that without a doubt, the LUVIAS Airity or Exist LT Airity feels significantly better than the 2020 LUVIAS. I mean, this is already a super smooth and super quiet reel. If you remember my review, I had some complaints about the resistance and the drag sound, but I already gave the LUVIAS 10 out of 10 in terms of smoothness and quietness. I didn't know how you could make a reel feel better than this. But the Exist LT Airity definitely feels better than the LUVIAS. It just immediately makes it feel like this is a plastic reel. Just the feeling of metal. You cannot duplicate this metallic feeling with holding a plastic reel. It can be just as smooth, but I don't know how to describe it. It just feels cheaper when it's inside a plastic frame. This thing, very strangely, it doesn't even feel like metal. It feels like it's made of glass. That's how I feel. I feel like it's made of glass. It even looks like it has a thin layer of glass on top. And oh my God, is it, I don't know, smooth, connected. I don't want to use these bullshit description words, but guys, it feels better than the LUVIAS. That's without a doubt. Now, how much better is it worth the price? How much do you make? Do you really want to go there? I'm not saying it's worth, I'm not saying it's that much better. I'm just saying the two reels do not feel similar. This, without a doubt, feels better and feels more expensive. They do both have the same resistance. None of these reels is a trout magnet twitch reel. To be honest with you, if I have to twitch a trout magnet, I would rather twitch my trout magnet with my Vanfort than with this LUVIAS Airity. And of course we have to say a few words to compare the Exist LT Airity with the Vanquish. Otherwise I'm gonna get like 100 people unsubscribe from my channel. But comparing these two reels is actually very difficult because they don't feel similar in any category. If we're talking about twitching a trout magnet again. Or let me put it this way. If we're talking about pure performance, things like resistance and startup inertia, the Vanquish is without a doubt the undisputed king. There is nothing that really comes close to that reel. The reel that comes the closest to the Vanquish in terms of pure performance is actually the old Daiwa Presso Limited. Not the new one that's coming out right now. I expect the new one will be packed with that nasty grease again. The same grease that's in the Arity, in the Exist, in the LUVIAS. I think all three reels have the same nasty grease, and that grease is the single biggest reason for me not liking these reels. And I hope the new Presso has more of an oil than grease. But anyway, in my opinion, this is the reel that is the closest to the Vanquish in terms of pure performance. The Arity is not even that close. I don't think the Arity is second. I don't think the Arity is third. The Arity is just not a reel with low inertia and low resistance. I would, like I said, I would rather fish, forget about the Vanquish, I would rather fish with my Vanfords or Complex XR or any of those reels than with the Arity if I'm gonna be twitching a trout magnet. That said, if you ask me which of the two reels just feels nicer, forget about performance, but which of the two reels feels nicer, or which of the two reels feels more expensive, then I'll say without a doubt the Arity feels more expensive. The Arity feels better than the Vanquish. Again, it has this feeling like it's made of glass or something. The whole thing is really connected. No gears, no nothing. I mean, it is just an amazing reel. And if I were throwing again some crankbaits or some spoons or something else where the lure creates some kind of resistance and weight, I would enjoy much more casting those with the Arity, because again, the resistance doesn't matter anymore. You have resistance in the lure anyway. All you feel is this amazing smoothness, and it's just a magic feel. I hate using such descriptions, but it does have a magic feel. And the last thing I want to say before I end this video, and I know the video is already too long and you guys don't really care about all these tangents, just tell me what's the difference between the two reels, tell me is it a good buy, and that's it. But for me it's interesting, why did Daiwa do this? Okay, why didn't they just discount the LT? Why did they decide to start selling the Exist LT under this LUVIAS Airity name? Why was this whole circus necessary? Giving the reel the LUVIAS name, giving the reel the LUVIAS color, just going out of their way to make this reel look like a LUVIAS and just create a confusion and illusion that you're buying some kind of sister and improved version of the LUVIAS, when it's already an amazing reel. I mean, who doesn't think great of the Exist LT? It's their flagship. Why did they have to, do this whole downgrade circus? In my opinion, the reason for that is because the Exist LT is getting old. I know it's a flagship. In my opinion, this is the best freshwater reel. No Stella, no Schmella, nothing. This is the best freshwater reel, but it's a 2018 model. How many people do you think are ready to pay $800 in 2021 for a 2018 model? Well, Daiwa knows how many units they're selling, and my guess is they are not selling very many. So if the new exist LT model was delayed for some reason, like everything else is delayed these days, and they wanted to squeeze a few more sales out of the older model, they have to sell it under a different name just because this is an older model. You would say, well, they can just discount the exist LT and it will, if they offer it for 40% off, people will start buying it. But this doesn't look good. Think about the optics. Manufacturers don't like to discount their flagship models. Why are you discounting your best reel by 30, 35%, 40%? It just doesn't look good. Maybe you cannot sell your inventory. It doesn't look good. If Daiwa is gonna sell this older model at a heavy discount, they have to sell it under a different name. This is why they did the circus and they went out of their way. For first time, they named the two reels with the same name, LUVIAS, But even then, if you ask me, okay, so now I'm confused. You said it's a good reel, now it's an old model. Do you think it's worth the money? You know what I think? On one hand, it's really worth the $450 because you are buying the best freshwater reel in the world. If we leave performance aside, just overall, the best freshwater reel you're buying for $450. From this angle, it is worth the money, but it's also worth the 30 to 40% discount too. I can see both sides. It's worth the money you pay. It's worth the discount too, because it is an older model and you're gonna pay $450, maybe $500 after tax, and 6 months from now there will be a new exist LT and you're gonna feel like you're stuck with the old reel again. So only you can make this choice. Is it worth the money or not? In my opinion, the reel is very properly priced. If you buy it, you didn't make a mistake. If you didn't buy it, you didn't make a mistake. You really can't go wrong with this reel. But that's the end of this story, guys. Thanks for watching this one to the end, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.